morning, dear students. You are welcome back from the break we had. We have been having exercises. I've been giving exercises. Some people have been doing and some have not been doing. So for those who have been doing, it's good because you are walking. You keep walking. And this time around, we'll continue. We'll continue from where we ended. Our topic that we are working on was on flowering plants. We could call them angiosperms, plants that produce flowers. And we had the structure of a flowering plant. And from that structure, we could identify that a plant has three main areas, three main parts. And can somebody give us these parts? Yes. Somebody mentioned roots. Yes. Somebody mentioned stems. Good. Another person mentioned the shoot. The shoot has the leaves and other upper parts of the plant. We have functions of parts of this plant. We will now work detailedly on these parts, these main parts, especially the roots and the stems. And our focus today will be on the roots. We'll see an external view, structure of the roots, just like when you uproot the plant, the external view. We'll also come out with the different kinds of roots. The last exercise I gave you was talking about the kinds of roots, so you were able to update yourself and see what you had and what you did not have, and where to fill in from your last exercise. Then we'll have the internal structure of the root. Very important. How is the root internally? We just see the external. We'll see the structure of the internal. We'll focus first on the dicot root. We'll work with that root. We'll see how the root is. We'll be able to distinguish the various parts of that internal section of the root. This will be our lesson for today, and I wish that we all work together. I hope that you have been doing so much work at home, and from what you have been doing, you'll be able to contribute for us to work very well this time around. I hope that everybody is ready to work. From the chart we'll see, we'll have the structure of the external view of the root, the internal view, and equally some kinds of roots and their examples. And I hope that with our contributions we'll get more. If we look at the external view of the root, we'll discover that it has three key regions or zones. We have the lower zone, which is the zone of cell division, which means where there is growth, cell division. Cells divide and form new roots, new hairs. We have the middle zone, which is the zone of elongation, the zone that is able to increase length of the root. Then the upper zone, which is the zone of maturation. That's where roots develop and they get mature. That one we'll see in the chart as we progress. Alright, as we mentioned the chart, here we have our lesson here on roots. And what can we say the root is? If you look from the beginning, when you plant the seed and it's growing, when the seed starts to germinate, there's the part that grows downward, and there's a part that grows upward. The part that grows downward is called the radicle, and it's this part that form the roots of plants. The part that grows upward, how do we call it? Can somebody suggest? The part that grows upward. Good. Somebody suggests there. Somebody says the plumule. The part that grows upward is called the plumule. And if this plumule grows upward, it will form which part of the plant? Can somebody give an idea? It will form which part of the plant? Yes? Somebody says it will form the shoot. Good. The shoot is the upper part of the plant. So the roots develop from the radicle. And here we have the external structure of the root. We mentioned that we have 3 regions or 3 zones. The lower one, we call it the zone of cell division or region of cell division. Then next one is zone of elongation. Then the other one, zone of maturation. And then we look at this diagram of the external part. We'll discover that there are some parts lacking. Can we name them? Yes. Can somebody give us what this part stands for? Yes. He says root hair. Correct. So we write it there. Root hair. Then this other part that branches. Can somebody suggest? Yes. She says lateral root. Good. Then the other part, can somebody suggest? Can somebody suggest this part? Somebody says deep root. No, it's not deep root. This part in the middle, we call it the main root. Main root. That's the main root of the plant, from where the lateral roots develop. Then this downer part of the root. Somebody suggests? No idea? Somebody suggests, says root tip. Yes, it could be root tip. But we better call it root cap, which is also the tip of the root. This is the external view of the root. Then when we go into the kinds of roots, we'll discover that we have 2 main root systems. The tap root system and the fibrous root system. Can we say that? Good. Tap root system and the fibrous root system. The tap root system, this one exists in dicot plants. We talk of dicot plants. Can somebody give an example of dicot plants? Yes. Beans, yes. Groundnuts, yes. Those are examples. So it exists in such plants. Then we have fibrous root system. Can we give an example? This fibrous root system, they exist in monocots. Can we give examples of monocots? Good. Somebody say corn. Good. Somebody say rice. Good. These are examples of monocots. So they have this type of root system. But despite this, we still have other modified roots that we can give them into various kinds. For example, from the board here, or from our chart here, we have storage roots. Can we repeat? Storage roots. It's simple. We say these are roots that do what? Store food. We just give some examples here. carrot, cassava, yams. We have adventitious roots. We say these are roots that are formed from noots. Take note. There are some plants that when the stem is growing, it develops noots. A good example, sugarcane. If you have seen a sugarcane plant growing, you discover that from those noots, at times roots develop from there. We have buttress roots. Can we repeat? Buttress roots. We say these roots are large and thick, and they grow at the base of the tree trunk. Those who have seen a kola nut tree, kola nut tree is a good example of such trees. You discover that the tree, when it's ending, you find roots coming out. They even come out externally, and you can even see the roots. We call them buttress roots. They are thick. That's why roots of kola nut can even be used as firewood, because they are thick. Prop roots, we said they are adventitious roots, but this one grew from branches or develop from roots and branches and grew downward, giving support to the plant. We are talking of maize. If we see the way the maize grows, the maize develop, we'll find out when the maize is growing, the roots, those roots, they come from the stem and they grow downward. At times they touch the soil, they get into the soil and they support the maize plant. Grasping roots. We say these are roots that develop from branches, develop from tree trunks. And these roots, when they grow out from these parts, they produce a plant that tends to grow on branches or on stems of other plants. And that's why we say such plants are called epiphytes. They are called what? Epiphytes. It means plants that grow on other plants. When they are growing, those plants, they always tend to move towards the surface in search for sunlight. We are talking examples here of climbing fig and orchid. Then we have area roots. Area means roots that are growing out of the soil. Roots that grow out of the soil. We find most of the roots that grew on other stems, branches, or on walls of buildings. This is an example of a plant you have in your school environment here, that you find that that plant has its roots that are growing on the walls. So we call them area roots, because these roots, they even make use of water vapor from the atmosphere in order to develop. Then we'll be having this structure of the root. This structure of the root, we'll try to find out the structure of the root and then to distinguish the structure. To distinguish the structure of this root. From this, we're able to make a difference as we move between the dicot root and the monocot root. And I want to ask this question, that which type of root is this from what we mentioned? Can somebody suggest? We saw this as the external part of the root. And what should this be? Somebody say internal part of the root. We want to distinguish this root to say whether it is a dicot root or a monocot root. Can somebody suggest? Yes, he says dicot root. Can you give the person a clap? He says a dicot root. So this is the section of a dicot root. Internal section. So it's the internal section of a dicot root. We'll try to label these parts of the dicot root. We'll put these parts to try to label them. If we look at these parts, can we give some parts? Can somebody identify some parts? Yes. This first part that we have here, can somebody give the first part? Seemingly nobody is giving. This one, we call it the cortex. We call it the cortex. Looking at this and what we have seen in the external structure, can somebody suggest this part? Yes. Good. She says root hair. Then we have three parts here, very key parts of the roots. One is inside, one is outside, then there's one in the middle. These parts make up what we call the vascular bundles. And the one that is inside, internally, we call it xylem. Then the one that is external, that indicates food store here, who can suggest it? It's not coming. We call it phloem. Then the one in the middle, that separates the two, we call it cambio. We call it the cambio. Then on this side, this external surfaces of plants, we call this epidermis. Then this one here, we call it endodermis. Epidermis, endodermis. So these are parts that make up the internal section of the dicot root. You take this down in your notes. When you are working, you compare with what you have done and see the changes. This is the dicot root. In our next class, we'll see the monocot root, and we're able to make the difference between this. At the end of it, we'll be able to compare the two kinds of roots, dicot roots and monocot roots. You keep on studying and working very hard. Is there any question? Is there any question? Can somebody give us other examples of roots? We have just given some. Can somebody give us other examples of roots? Yes, somebody says taproot. Taproot, we saw it here as a main root system. The taproot as a main root system. So it could also fall here. But take note that these are roots that exist or that occur in dicots. Thank you. Have a nice day.